Today I will investigate decimals and place value blocks so I can relate them to fractions, and I'll have it when I can identify equivalent fractions and decimals when given a model. So before we get into tonight's video, I just want to quickly review our fraction decimals equivalents. We know 1/2 equals 0 and 50 hundredths or 5/10. 1/4, just like a quarter is 25 cents, it is 25 hundredths. Just like a dime is 10 cents, it is 1/10 is 1/10 or 10 hundredths. And 1/5, we can turn that into 2/10 using equivalent fractions, and that gives us 0.20. So this might be something helpful to write down as we go through today's video. So as we've been working on from that brief review, we've been working on relating fractions and decimals because we know they're the same type of thing because they both represent part of a whole. So here we have a decimal grid or a fraction grid, and I want to know which of the following are equivalent to the shaded area of the model. As we know, this is just representing my one whole. It doesn't actually count, but this is the shaded amount. So I see I have 1 rod, 2 rods, 3 rods, 4 rods, 5, 6, 7, I have 8 rods shaded in, and I know when I have a rod in a flat like that, it's worth a tenth. So I have 8/10. So I can express that as a fraction, or I can express that as a decimal, 8/10. And if I put that, so I need to go through, and now I need to look at all of my answers and see which ones might work, which ones don't work. Well, I know that F definitely works because that is my decimal that I have represented here, and I know B definitely works because that's my fraction I have represented there. Now, A would not work because 2/10 is the amount that is not shaded in, and I'm not worried about that. And then I can also get rid of E because that's just 2/10 in decimal form. Now, I almost picked G down here, but I realized that says 8 hundredths, which would look like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, because I know hundredths are the small little cubes because it takes 100 of them to make a whole. So I can eliminate G. Now that leaves me trying to figure out, does 2/5 or 4/5 work? Well, I know it's fifths and I have all these in tenths, but I know that fifths and tenths, I can make them equivalent to each other pretty quickly. So I'll take 2/5 times something equals something over 10. 5 times 2 gives me 10. 5, and then I need to make that one whole. So 2 times 2 equals 4. 4/10, well, that's not equivalent to 8/10. Then if I have 4/5 times 2 over 2, that gives me 8/10. So I do know that 4/5 is equivalent, so B, D, and F were all equivalent to the shaded area of the model. So here's another model. I would like you to pause this and solve it, and then we'll go over it together. Alright, hopefully at this point you've solved it. And so when I'm looking, I see that I have 75 small blocks shaded in. So I know that would be represented as 0 and 75 hundredths. And I remember that every 25 is a quarter, or 1/4. So I have 3/4 or 3/4 because I know that that's how many that I have shaded in. Each 25 is worth another quarter. So I can get rid of 1/4 because that would be 25 hundredths. I can get rid of 1/2 because I see that there's more than half of that shaded in. C is correct, and I know D is correct because that's my decimal I've represented. 0 and 50 hundredths, or just 50 hundredths, that's equivalent to 1/2, and 25 hundredths, that would be equivalent to just 1/4. So because I remembered from that 1/4 equals 25, I was able to realize that there are 3 25s and 75s, so that would give me 3/4. And that's going to wrap it up for us here. If you bring back to school problem, I would like to know which of the following are equivalent to the shaded area of the model. Please make sure that you're writing the letter and the number, whether it's a fraction or a decimal, because that's what I'll be looking for in the morning. So good luck, and I will see you in the morning.